I don't tell this story anymore. Not because people think I'm lying, but because every time I tell it, I start noticing things again. Little things. Sounds that shouldn't be there. Shadows that don't seem to match the room. It all started 6 months ago when I moved into an old apartment. It wasn't nice, but it was cheap, and I figured a few creaky floorboards were worth saving the money. The landlord joked that the previous tenant had left in a hurry and said, "If you hear strange noises at night, don't worry. The building has a lot of character." I laughed at the time. I wish I hadn't. The first few weeks were completely normal. Then one night I woke up for no reason and checked the time on my phone. It was exactly 3:14 a.m. I noticed my bedroom door was open. I always sleep with it closed. Before I could convince myself I'd forgotten to shut it, I heard footsteps coming down the hallway. They were slow, barefoot, and deliberate. They stopped just outside my room. I couldn't see anyone standing there, but I heard a slow breath, as if someone was only a few feet away. I stayed completely still until the footsteps eventually walked away. The next morning, I searched the entire apartment. Every window was locked, every door was locked, and there was no sign that anyone had been inside. The same thing happened the next night. Again, I woke up at exactly 3:14. Again, the footsteps came down the hallway. This time, they didn't stop at the doorway. They walked into my bedroom. I couldn't see a person, but I could hear every step on the hardwood floor getting closer until they stopped right beside my bed. Then I felt warm breath on my forehead. A voice whispered so quietly that I almost thought I'd imagined it. "Don't move." I didn't. After what felt like forever, the footsteps walked away, and I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. After weeks of this happening, I bought security cameras and set them up in every room. The next morning, I checked the footage. Every camera recorded perfectly until 3:14 a.m., when they all went black at the exact same moment. 4 minutes later, they started recording again as if nothing had happened. There was no static, no error message, just 4 missing minutes every single night. Thinking the cameras were broken, I left my phone recording beside my bed instead. The next morning, I listened to the recording. At first, there was only silence, followed by the familiar footsteps. Then I heard my own breathing. Suddenly, my own voice said, "Don't look behind you." I know I wasn't awake, and I know I never said those words. A few seconds later, my breathing stopped, but the recording continued. For almost 2 minutes, something else stood in my room, breathing slowly into the microphone. I couldn't take it anymore, so I stopped sleeping in my bedroom. I made a bed on the couch in the living room. At exactly 3:14, the footsteps entered my empty bedroom, paused for several seconds, and then continued down the hallway toward me. They stopped beside the couch. I pulled the blanket over my head like a child. Then, right beside my ear, I heard my own voice whisper, "I know you're awake." The next morning, I packed everything I owned and moved across the country. I found a brand new apartment on the 21st floor of a modern building. There were no creaky floors, no attic, no crawl space, and no reason to believe whatever had happened before could follow me. For over a month, nothing happened. I finally convinced myself that stress and lack of sleep had made me imagine everything. Then, last Tuesday, I woke up naturally in the middle of the night. I reached for my phone. It was 3:14 a.m. 3 slow knocks came from inside my bedroom closet. Before I could even stand up, my phone buzzed with a notification that read, "Motion detected." Somehow, it was from my old security camera app, even though I had never installed any cameras in this apartment. My hands were shaking as I opened the notification. A live video appeared, showing my bedroom from a camera mounted near the ceiling. I could see myself sitting on the bed, staring at the closet. Then, in the corner of the room behind me, something appeared. It was impossibly tall. Its head was tilted at an unnatural angle. It wasn't moving. It was just watching me. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, but I couldn't. I spun around as fast as I could. The corner was empty. When I looked back at my phone, the figure was gone. The video feed had disappeared. The notification was gone too, as if it had never existed. All I could see was my reflection in the black screen. Except, my reflection wasn't copying me anymore. It wasn't looking at the phone. It wasn't even looking at me. It was staring at the closet. Then, without opening its mouth, I heard my own voice from inside the closet whisper, "Don't turn around this time." I don't remember leaving the apartment. I don't remember packing. I only remember driving. Hours passed before I realized I had no destination. I just wanted to be somewhere else. Anywhere else. For weeks, I stayed in hotels, sleeping with every light on. Every time I woke up in the middle of the night, I checked the clock before opening my eyes completely. Sometimes it was 2:58, sometimes 4:12, but every time it was 3:14, I stayed perfectly still, because I was terrified of what I'd hear if I moved. Months have passed since then. I haven't heard the footsteps again. Not once. At least, not directly. Instead, people have started saying strange things to me. A cashier once asked if my brother was waiting outside. I don't have a brother. A coworker asked why I always bring someone with me to work. I work alone. Last week, a little girl in a grocery store smiled at me and asked, "Why is that man following you?" Her mother apologized and pulled her away before I could answer. I looked behind me anyway. No one. But when I turned back, the little girl wasn't smiling anymore. She looked frightened. She whispered something I couldn't hear before they disappeared around the corner. Since then, I've started noticing reflections. Store windows, mirrors, dark TV screens. Sometimes, for just a fraction of a second, there's someone standing a few feet behind me. Always too blurry to make out. Always gone when I turn around. I've stopped looking into mirrors unless I absolutely have to. I'm afraid one day the reflection won't disappear. I'm afraid one day it'll still be there after I turn around. Last night I woke up again. No footsteps, no knocking, just silence. I looked at my phone. 3:14 a.m. I told myself this was ridiculous. I was imagining everything. Then my phone rang. No caller ID. Against my better judgment, I answered. For several seconds, there was only quiet breathing. Then I heard my own voice. Calm. Clear. Completely emotionless. It said, "I finally caught up." The call ended. I immediately checked my call history. There was nothing. No missed call. No incoming number. Nothing. I didn't sleep after that. This morning, I decided to write everything down. Maybe getting it out of my head will help. Maybe someone reading this will know what happened to me. Or maybe they'll think it's just another made-up horror story. I hope that's what you think. Because if you believed me, you'd probably do exactly what I've been trying not to do for months. The next time you wake up in the middle of the night, you'll check the clock, and if it says 3:14 a.m., you'll wonder whether you're really alone. That's when it starts.